Stop press. Stop press. Stop press. Calling all ambitious property sales and marketing professionals. Your undivided attention is required to focus urgently on legal matters in handling floor levels ownership affairs. This week's newsletter is most relevant to your profession because it does affect your performance as responsible sales and marketing personnel in the real estate business. True. Jokes aside, before we dive headlong into deep end of the bulletin, we need to preview some relevant points. Alright. Briefly, mention must be first made on fact that the relevant authorities will not arbitrarily absorb debts from housing developers to solve problems regarding strata ownership. These authorities will only assess each individual case and factors benefiting both the state and purchaser so that such titles could be given. Many of the cases involved development that were over 2 years old. The trouble began when builders were allowed to proceed with the construction before paying the land premium. Moreover, buyers not able to afford. But then the state body is taking concrete efforts to solve the problem. That said, let's dig into the core of this bulletin. Shall we? Thanks. Breaking news. Tackling strata title issue. Selangor government will not arbitrarily absorb debts from housing developers to solve problems regarding strata ownership. Selangor Housing, Urban Wellbeing and Entrepreneur Development Committee Chairman Radzia Ismail said the state government would assess each individual case and factors favoring both the state and purchaser so that strata titles could be issued. She cited a case involving a strata ownership problem in Taman Putra Perdana, Sepang, where the state government absorbed the land premium owed by the original developer. She said a task force, set up in January this year with the Selangor Land and Mines Office (PTGS) to solve such issues, had 611 pending cases. Many of the cases involved development that were over 20 years old, she said, citing one solved case in Putra Perdana involving 12,845 buyers. This is because at that time, developers were allowed to proceed with the construction before settling the land premium. Most of the original developers had dissolved or did not have enough funds to submit the entire strata title application. Radzia said in replying a question by Halimi Abu Bakar PH Sari Sesha at the Selangor State Assembly. Halimi wanted to know the state's solution to strata title ownership problems. Radzia said new developments were not given such leeway, as work could only start after the land premium had been paid and the strata title had to be transferred in a year after completion. She said the task force helped to identify the memorandum of transfer fees and failing to meet requirements by PTGS due problems such as applications by non-Bumiputra buyers for designated Bumiputra lots. We have advised the task force to set up a war room to solve the problem as soon as possible, at least in the next 2 years, she added. Elizabeth Wong, PH Bukit Lanjan, raised a question on how the state had prioritized the cases, citing an ownership title problem in Taman Daya, Seliong, that was more than 30 years old. She said there were apartments, shop lots, houses and a condominium built on government land in Taman Daya. I brought up the case at the Gombak Land and District Office in 2018 but they have yet to call for a meeting, said Wong. Radzia replied that it was likely a case where the state was involved in a joint venture with a developer, and that the developer had failed to pay the land premium. If the development was built on government land, it will be categorized as illegal. I will check on this case, she said, and classify the problems accordingly before further action was taken. For example, some cases are due to the liquidators' inaction. The court order once liquidators did not include a deadline, resulting in some liquidators dragging the case and eventually expecting the state to solve the problem. I will propose an enactment to set a deadline for liquidators to settle the problem, failing which a new liquidator will be appointed, she said. Radzia said other causes of delay included buyers not being able to afford. With all said, we shall pause for a moment before we conclude succinctly. Agreeable. I bet you will. To sum up in a neat nutshell on the news of the authorities handling strata ownership problems, here are critical point need to mention again. Alright. Meanwhile, be aware of the seriousness of this issue is long overdue and there are large numbers owners are suffering much inconveniences without their strata title. Also, not to sound like a broken record, let's re-examine the facts again. Okay. In essence, we must recollect that the relevant authorities will not arbitrarily absorb debts from housing developers to solve problems regarding strata ownership. Not forgetting the authorities will only assess selected individual case and other factors. Plus, on condition, it should benefit the state and purchaser. As such, only strata titles could be furnished. Note also, many of such cases involving schemes that exist more than 2 decades years old. Be reminded that the trouble arises because builders also fail to pay for the land premium in the initial stage. Moreover, some house buyers are just not able to afford the premium. Nevertheless, the state body is taking concrete efforts to solve the problem. As we are now aware of dwellers' plight, we should advise our prospects or customers to ensure that strata titles be settled before purchasing the property. Would that be a wise advice? You can bet your last dollar or ringgit it is. My parting words would be best said by Jeff Bezos. He says, real estate is the key cost of physical retailers. That's why there's the old saw. Location, location, location. End of quote. Source. Extracted and modified from Open Printed Media. P.S. Although this is a lengthy sales and marketing property newsletter, yet we want to congratulate you for watching and reading this bulletin completely. Since you already read this news, therefore, you now deserve more forthcoming weekly free chapters of the book, How to Apply Sales After Sales Tips and Techniques for Greater Selling Success. Plus, we are eager to know which part of this sales and marketing property newsletter you learned most. Your feedbacks would help each other be more proficient and more professional. Remember, these sharings will continue in YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course in our author, trainer and consultant's email, josephsung@gmail.com. Upon request. Alright, thank you. We hope to meet you again next week. Goodbye and best wishes. From me, yours truly, Madam Sophia, the virtual presenter to CTM Joseph, the 2nd of December 2022.